Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farron, co-owner of the company Horns of Odin, and I'm joined as always by Dr. Mathias Nordvig.
Hello, everyone. Today we are joined by Tanya Lind from Iceland. She's an Icelandic Völva, and today is also the Icelandic National Day. So, til hamingju með daginn.
Takk fyrir.
I would try and say that, but I struggled hearing it, let alone saying it.
It is Icelandic with a Danish twang to it, so I don't know.
Þú brattur á íslensku. You're pretty good in Icelandic.
Takk fyrir.
Yeah.
Please don't feed his ego.
Yeah.
Not this early in the episode.
I like seeing what happens. So
So the Icelandic, did you say National Day, the Independence Day? What's that? Somebody please enlighten me.
So it's like we got the full independence on the 17th of June. That's what I know. Like wasn't it like one day that we got like to rule our own, and then we were under the crown, but then we got full independence on the 17th of June.
Back in 1918, after like several decades of back and forth between the Icelandic Alþingi and the Danish king, the Danish king eventually was like, okay, here's a treaty where basically Iceland, you're sovereign, but you're still part of the Danish Commonwealth, except we also control your foreign policy. That was in 1918. And that treaty also then included a stipulation that said that Iceland could secede from that Commonwealth 25 years after or something like that. Like after 25 years, then Iceland could just like whatever. And then Iceland just did exactly that in 1944, while Denmark was still occupied by the Germans.
They snuck out.
They snuck out. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they were legally, they could just do that. So that's what they did. That's the short version of it. Of course, there's like the entire 19th century and like the whole growth of the Icelandic national movement and all the things there that came before that, right? There was like a call for independence already in 1830 something, as far as I remember. So it's like it was a thing for a while until the Danes were like, okay, finally, we will do something about it. It's kind of like a thing for Denmark. Like right now it's Greenland. Greenland has a similar kind of treaty with Denmark. Like they can secede if they want to, but it's sort of like Denmark as a colonial power is sort of like a slow burn kind of thing.
Yeah,
So.
isn't it?
I feel like it sounds.
We were in some kind of monopoly for some time, like Norway, Denmark, something like that, I don't even know why. I don't even know this history well enough. You know it better than me.
I mean, the king imposed a trade monopoly on all of his kingdom, basically, which meant that you couldn't just sail from Iceland and trade in England or anything like that. You would have to go through the official trading companies and all that stuff. It's like that's basic European colonialism as we know it from England as well, with like the East India.
Bring us into this. This isn't about us for once.
Well, hey, you were the guys who actually tried to circumvent the Danish monopoly of the North Atlantic for a very long time.
We didn't listen to anyone.
Succeeded when Lord Nelson burned our entire fleet.
Of course, that's what happened.
There's a wonderful little silly story to that. So that was in 1807, as far as I remember, or 1809. One of those like years, right around that time. Lord Nelson burns the entire Danish fleet. The Danish Navy then goes to the Forest Service. They go over to the Forest Service and they're like, plant a bunch of trees so that we can rebuild our fleet. And they're like, okay. So they plant a bunch of trees. And I think it was in 2006 that the Danish Navy got a call from the Forest Service with the message, "Your trees are ready."
I'm not sure making ships out of wood anymore is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll need to go back to that at some point.
Well, Nelson might come along and burn them down again.
Shit, yeah.
Those pesky Brits there.
But Tanya, what do you guys do on the National Day of Iceland? Like, what have you been up to today?
Oh, so I live in a small village in the south coast, and there's a neighboring village. So you might know it. I live in Stokkseyri.
Mm-hmm. There's a really good restaurant there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you get your what do you call it? Humar, stuff like. I don't even know the English words right now.
Lobster.
Lobster. So there's a neighboring village my mother lives in, and there was a gathering in like the village hall, where the mountain women, the fjallkona, a female representative of the spirit of Iceland. She looks like a Smurf. She's wearing like a blue gown with a white, cone hat,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they had a flag, and it's a ritual, she walks down the aisle, and they're doing like this flag thing presenting her. And then she recited a poem about friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like an inspirational talk by some representative of the village. And then it was just like children's stuff, like choir singing old poetry. And what do you call it? Like the horn band, they're playing all the big horns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got trapped in the hall and was offered beer, and I couldn't get out of the whole festivities. It got really loud, So yeah, we had a lot of fun there. What like I always wonder, Mathias, maybe, or anybody knows this, I sing kvæði. I have no idea like how to say this in English when I'm singing poetry. How do you say that to American speakers?
Like reciting poetry, perhaps?
Singing it, like
singing
reciting
it.
like
Yeah.
kvæði.
Right, yeah. I don't think that there's like a direct, I wouldn't say that there is a direct translation into English of like kvæða. Other than reciting, but it doesn't come close enough to the meaning of the word kvæði. So yeah. I don't know, Dan, what would you say?
Singing poetry?
Singing poetry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there is a specific word for it. Maybe there is. I'm not known for my depth of words.
We should find a way to say it, because I'm explaining to people that I sing Völuspá,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm singing all this poetry. And this is another thing I was doing today. We had a bit of an after party in front of the hall, and we were singing old kvæði, so reciting the poetry in our song form. And so I had a little fun with that, and then I came here to meet you guys. But in Reykjavik, there's a lot of, there used to be parades when I was younger, and the mountain women, the fjallkona, she shows up there's a representative in every village, and that is like the festive moment to see that outside of the parliament, or just places like this.
Right.
So I just have a thing of showing up to rituals, like even when people don't even realize they're doing rituals. This was a total ritual. They were presenting, like a hofgyðja, like a temple goddess of Iceland. And I really enjoyed that, and just the heartfelt spirit of the atmosphere.
Yeah,
yes.
So
that is really cool.
That was really nice.
Sounds like a good excuse to have a nice party, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so that is really fun, and it's really cute just living in these little villages and just seeing people dress up and gather this way. It's really endearing.
Perfect. I mean, Tanya, I'm guessing you have a little cat running around there somewhere.
Yeah, and can I let her out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For anybody, I'm sure anybody listening keeps hearing the little cat jingling around. I didn't want people thinking maybe Tanya had bells on her wrists or something.
Yeah, no, that was my cat, and then I have a sheep right outside the door. Also, I'm not kidding. I have a homeling, a little baby sheep.
Nice.
Oh. I mean,
Yeah,
I would if I could. If I had the space, I would.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's really cute.
I'd have sheep too, but I don't know if they get taken by a mountain lion or something out here.
Yeah, my sheep is in danger of my dog, actually. So it's like, yeah, so I'm trying some situations out here.
Perfect.
But, so I'm coming here as a Völva from Iceland.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hi. Yeah,
Hello.
I understand today that's quite a statement. And the thing is that didn't really realize it was much of a thing. I have this island mentality. I have spent time in America. My father is half American. My grandfather was here during World War II. He's Native American and a bit Irish. And he was in the Air Force working for them. Met my grandmother, and that's how I kind of blended into America and some wonderful traditions there also. But the rest of my family is Icelandic, and I lived a few winters in America, which was really good that I did that, because living on this island in the north, and especially in the countryside like I do, I sometimes am naive and a bit not oblivious to the bigger world. And about 2016, I finally started using Facebook a little bit. It was just, I had a bored month. I was just like, ooh, what's this about? Checking things out and seeing that there are heathen groups and stuff. And I'm like, ooh, what's this about? This is great. People actually care about this stuff. We're cool for once. And always been cool, but growing up, people really didn't know what we wore, who we were from, what a vulva is. Nobody really cared to even it's just I'm talking about outside world. And then I started becoming aware that television programs like Vikings and other things were presenting us, not presenting us, but presenting Norse things. And then all this interest came along, and I was really excited at first because I don't know, I'm alone a lot. I grew up alone a lot in nature and things like that, and always wanted to communicate with the outside world, and I don't know, just be recognized. I don't know what it is. Have company,
Of course.
And then that went a little far, because it's very intense what I see on Facebook and social media today.
Oh, it's intense.
It's really intense. And I'm still got this island village mentality. I don't understand that, but I'm trying to find harmony, just trying to find harmony. And also, when I was seeing people get interested in Seder, I see people get interested in the path of the Völva and things like that. I only started to speak up a bit when it was going very far from Earth, and becoming quite sometimes self-serving, or if it's something about being powerful or attention seeking. And that was just that it just felt awful, because this is so much about alignment. And it's about being very grounded to Earth and nature, and sincerity. As soon as you start putting into it any kind of what do you call it, consumption and thinking it's self-serving, people are going to get totally screwed over. It's very, very bad to mess with these powers this way. So if I just notice that I take pictures of my environment, that it has good influence on people, that it inspires them, and I sometimes speak from my heart, but otherwise I'm not presenting myself as anybody but what I do here, just doing my thing. And if I
Mhm.
can hold space for some wholesomeness and grounding and good medicine, that is good. That is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
So, if I may ask, what's what are some of the major differences that you see between the tradition that you know from Iceland and like what people are doing outside? Like, what are some of these more harmful things as well? Like,
So I totally speak unfiltered because I have I don't care. So number one is selling it.
mm-hmm,
What the hell is that all about?
Mhm.
You do not sell this. The powers choose who to work with in the most aligned and serving way for both directions. This is not a commodity. So that is weird. It's also that it's passed down. So okay, so we have this here. We pass this down in our family and community because it's sometimes somebody outside the family that comes in, and we just walk together. I'm not holding any courses. I am not teaching it in this way. We just walk together if it's meant to be, by the instructions from the powers. And when I say powers, I'm not going to start talking about specific gods. I'm going to talk about the ancient ones that is beyond words. You know. So that is like one thing that is that was the culture shock first. And then I just see that, how can we say this? It's a lot about feeding into the ego that I'm seeing, you know. So I can be, I can look important. I can, people can validate me as important, and then I guide you. And I am not, it feels quite like the people are trying to make up their little cults, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's people
So,
wanting to get fame from what they
yes.
can do rather than doing it for the general good. It's more about, I'm going to do this, but look at what I can do in the moment.
Yeah. Why would you do this? And and there's also just a lot of so in the past year I've been like studying like what's happening in the world. What are they up to, you know? What are some, I'm not going to name any names, of course, I'm not going to get myself in that much trouble, but there's some groups that are working with trans work and things like that I am like, are you guys insane? Are you insane? People are just reading like a little bit of literature and things like that, take for granted that we do have this as a living tradition, and then they just make up the ceremonies and stuff and get possessed by all kinds of trickster spirits or whatever they are aligning with, and they're playing around with people's heads. And in our tradition, we take this very seriously because this can cause psychological damage to you and a lot of disrupt in your environment with your family, and it can get really damaging. Now that is just like with all, spirit world is complicated and there's a lot of spirits out there and they do not think like humans do. That's another thing. People, I see this a lot of in the world, that people are putting their human brain into this, their opinions, how they want to do things, but they're not taking instruction from the powers and how to present this in where they are right now. Because if I would have been staying in America and the powers would have chosen to still work with me, I would have adjusted to where I am and what is serving the purpose of this role I'm in right now. So it's like, it's kind of like this stuff. And I just really want to bring this down to earth again, and if anything, I would like to inspire people all over the world just to stand in their own hoop, stand in their own power where they are, and listen to the nature where is feeding them right now, and listen well, listen deeper, get out of your heads and listen to how we can harmonize with our environments where we are right now.
Okay.
But this is me just passing on the news. This is what the powers are instructing me to speak of.
Okay. Let's try and get some structure, I think, to this. So if we start at the beginning, what a vulva is, and then maybe work through to then your experiences and how that works for you, just to try and keep some basic kind of structure and knowledge to people listening, so we're not jumping all over the place. So who wants to take that one of what a Völva is, Matthias or Tanya?
I can speak a little bit about the historical background of a Völva.
Mm-hmm. So so I'm talking about like in traditionally, I'm guessing the idea of a seeress goes back thousands of years, but let's stick to maybe like in and around the Viking Age, what we would consider. And
so we have several sources that mention these religious authorities of various kinds, generally called völur. That's the plural of Völva. And sort of etymologically, it looks like the word Völva derives from a word for staff. So it's a woman who carries a staff that she uses in these rituals. The way that the rituals are described in the saga literature primarily is that it's like a divinatory process where the Völva receives information from spirits or gods, or communicates with them in one way or another, and then relays that information to the people there.
Okay.
So, and the best example we have of like a description of this is from Eric the Red's saga. This happens in Greenland, where a Völva is asked to divine about the current famine that is going on. So she's asked to basically look into the other world or communicate with the other world to then give information on whether or not there will still be famine in the future. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of the descriptions of these rituals are never particularly detailed. And this one is the most detailed one, and it's most detailed in the sense of describing what she's wearing. She wears like very specific clothing, like gloves made of rabbit skin, as far as I remember, a hat made of cat skin. You know, these various, and like rabbit and cat and those kinds of skins would be special in one way or another. She's also treated very nicely, as a distinguished person. She comes there, she's like well treated, she's well fed, and all of these things. And then she sits on a some kind of like built platform. It's called a statler in Old Norse, and we don't know exactly what that means, but you could vaguely translated to platform, vaguely translated to altar, or some, like there are multiple words that you can actually translate this into, depending on the context. And then there are other women present who are then singing this song called a varlökur. We don't know what the song really entails. Like, we don't know the words of the song and melodies or anything like that. At least it's not told in the story. So, and then that brings her into a trance, or some otherworldly state, and so that's how she then gets that knowledge.
Just to pull out, would the followers be Völvas in training, or is that something we just don't know?
No, so in this particular setting, it's actually just the women there.
Oh, okay.
So and it's an interesting situation, because this is a woman named Guðríður, who's actually the ancestral mother of several very important Icelanders later on in medieval history, and it's the part of the saga is also about her, and she's actually the one who's asked to sing this song, and she says she's like very reluctant because she's Christian. But it's implied, it's very well understood that she has learned this song as sort of like part of her distinguished tradition. So this is part of that ancestral tradition of teaching these particular songs and rituals in a specific family line, right? And she's, in this context, in this story, she's like the last of her line, and she's the one who also ends it eventually because she's Christian and all that stuff. But in this context, like she's like, okay, I'll help you guys out, as far as I remember. And so so she's the one who sings it, and also teaches the other women there to sing it. So what we're seeing here is a ritual where it's presupposed that the women here are the ones who are carrying some kind of power, right, to sing this song, to bring that specific religious authority, the Völva, into the trance, right? But that's like the best description we have of it. Then, of course, we have a bunch of other examples of these Völur who show up in saga literature or in Eddic poetry. For instance, like Völuspá, the prophecy of the seeress, is in the words of a Vulva herself, right? That's a Vulva who's reciting all the mythology about the beginning of the world and especially about Ragnarök, which of course then tells us that because if we go back to the history of the poem that I've like talked about for a million times now, right? It's from the late 900s, early thousands, right? It's one of the poems one of the few poems where we can say this definitely includes like pre-Christian mythology and knowledge, right? Where there's other poems where we're like, that's maybe not really the case. That's a lot later than this one. And it was composed originally in the words of a Vulva. Maybe, who knows, maybe by a Vulva. Like we don't know that, but it could be, right? And it's a very prophetic poem, and it carries a lot of import in a religious sense in that late stage paganism that exists in Scandinavia in the late 900s and early thousands. So what we generally understand is that the Völur, they were probably some of the most important religious figures in pre-Christian society in Scandinavia. And if you go to the archaeology, we can also see like archaeological examples of them. We have these women who are buried with a lot of special items, with metal rods, for instance, and all that stuff. So that fits sort of like the pattern. Like we have archaeological material that can actually authenticate this is not just a literary tradition, but something that also existed materially. So
was it always women?
That's a good question.
Is there any examples of, because I mean, every time you've mentioned it between you and Tanya so far, it's always been female. So I just wondered whether there were any examples of male Vulvas or anybody even, I guess, taking part in, because like even with the singing, you said it's all female. Like, is this predominantly just a female thing?
So in the Icelandic tradition, it seems like it's very much female. That also comes with the fact that that men who do seiðr, that's the seiðr is the word for the type of magic that the Völu will do, right? Men who do seiðr, they are demonized in the saga literature. It doesn't mean that there weren't men who did it, but it does seem to suggest that in an Icelandic context, it was considered particularly negative for men to do.
Okay.
We don't know if that would be the same case in mainland Scandinavia or Northern Europe in general. There could be many different.
When you say negative, do you mean in the men? If men practiced this way, then would they be seen as effeminate, and then that would be seen? Is that the kind of negativity that they were thinking?
There's distinctly accused of homosexuality, right? Which in a medieval Icelandic context is considered negative. Which
I guess would lean itself to this being a female, or what in their eyes should be a female only practice.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. But again, there's a couple of things to note about this. One is that the literature is written by a bunch of Christian dudes in the medieval period, right? They have a very distinct opinion about this. And secondly, Iceland can also be culturally a distinct case here that might be different from what was perhaps present in Norway, in Sweden, in Denmark, in Finland, in the Eastern Baltic. Who knows?
Tanya,
there's also a thing that males were considered maybe more vitke,
Mm-hmm.
have just another title. But I think that, well, there was a time when this was probably more gender fluid, had some third gender in it, but this is just, you know, a feeling. And okay, so I do not come into this path from academia. I do not come from it just with like a sudden interest in becoming something. It is, so we got a whole bunch of men in clergies writing this down. This doesn't mean that they were all like Christian at heart. These were opportunities to get educated and to learn writing and being able to write on something, you know. It's really expensive and difficult to get skin to write on, you know. That's why a lot of stories are put in short. And so, and the thing is that the country itself, Iceland itself, just has a hold on you. You can pretend to want to be all kinds of things, but the nature itself is what is raising you and what you humble to. And you realize there is some power here, well, in nature, but you just feel it really close. You know, I mean, it's a small island. We got the Atlantic Ocean going at you. We got volcanoes exploding. With the northern lights, you can almost touch them. So, like, so we can't. I think it's really hard to just kind of like block that out and not have that influence your spirit at some point. And so I think in Iceland that there's always been like a bit of a melding of traditions. There's going to be personalities that are going to be more strict and egotistical. My church do this, do that, whatever. But in general, the tradition is lived in just many little villages and fjords and just in the spirit of the people. Now, I did not follow any kind of idea from the sagas. I just carried on a torch. And not every woman in before me has been able to walk and present out in public the way I do now. I do it a lot because I can. And this has been uplifting for my community too. They find it wonderful, and I've grown with them. I was also, I would just like to say that it is also just lived in being able to survive here when the winters get harsh, when conditions get harsh, volcanoes exploding, plagues are coming through, starvation is coming through. We're under the foot of another crown of Lutheran faith or something, you know. In the end of the day, when you want to survive, you'll pull things out of your treasure chest, whether if it's working with magic or say they're talking to the powers, you know. And that is something that's really held this alive. People in my role have been kept very private. My whole life it's been word of mouth to come see, be present for the oracle seder I do, to come for any kind of guidance or medicine. It's always been word of mouth. It's not part of our tradition to come up forth and be like, hey, look at me, I'm a Völva, come shop some prophecy from me. That's not the thing at all. But the times that we're living in right now kind of called on to step up a little bit. And it's taken me years and years of stepping up just a little bit at a time. I work with my mother. I work with my aunt, my group, my singing troupe. They're all family members. From the age of 12 up to 60. You know what I mean? And this happens so naturally. I have had times when it's just me and my mom, and then at times when the group grows bigger. I started out, well, I was born, the thing is that in my family, we are born again in our own family. So soon in my life, I was starting to pick up on things, gathering my little charms and things like that belonged to me. They knew then that I was carrying this on as my own personality, but also the lineage behind me and the power, the oracle power that wants to come through. Universal knowing or nature, whatever you want to call it. It's all of that and more. And it just grew and grew and grew. I would do very private things, and I was often called just, you know, the little witch, Litla Nord, or the seer, all these little nicknames that you can give a person like me. But then the more that I went into my adult years, people started just to introduce me as the Völva. And it is beautiful what happens when that happens. Like at first I was kind of like, oof, really, you're going to put that on me? And we grew together with that. And people get very like, oh, you're stepping up into that? Thank you. It's so humble. It is so humble, because it's just in the culture that this is a path of sacrifice, and it's a service. So it's not like, oh yes, and how can I be like you? So we can do what? I mean, do you think a real Völva is going to care about money? I'm looking into the depth of the cosmos and the never-ending knowledge, and I really going to care about that? I really feel myself like as a speck of this big consciousness, and I don't feel very important. I just feel like I'm playing my role, and that gives me grounding and good feeling of alignment and purpose and service. Okay. That's pretty much it. But a lot of the things, the thing is that when sometimes I talk to people, they got it stuck in their heads like I'm going to be doing something exactly like 1,000 years ago. Now that would be I don't know what kind of Völva that's going to be, because we're living in this time right now. So I have a foundation of tradition that's working with me. I do the old ceremony. Well, I don't know if it's exactly how it looked like in that cabin in Greenland, but it is good enough that it works. And when it works, the people that are present know this. It's humbling, that I disappear and the powers come through. And they find ways to give you a journey that validates things, and they know that they are in the presence of something different. The atmosphere, the whole space changes and becomes something, otherworldly, very sacred. Regarding men, it's been passed on a lot from the mothers to the daughters, it's been through the women, but the men have also given me a lot. And played a part in my development, and also other family members I have. And today I am working with new circles kind of create around me. Like, it's kind of like I'm like okay, this is going to sound weird, but I'm kind of like a queen bee that doesn't really know that she's a queen bee, but then there's all these worker bees will just like gravitate towards. And now there's a lot of gender fluid people in my latest circle. So I am in this time where this is possible, experiencing this right now, and just seeing what will come through. Okay. And so we've held something very beautiful and sacred here. And it's weird. A lot of people will go like, can you teach me? Can you teach me? And it's not about that. I would rather work with inspiration, and people find their own inner knowledge and connection to the everything that is everything, and nothing that's nothing, and that is something.
So I'm interested in how this works. So would I come to you and say, Tanya, I want to know, is it my future, or would it be I want to know what's going to happen next year? Like, what would a typical person come to you and ask?
So the thing is that an oracle will take you in a path. It's not going to give you direct answers like you're going to meet somebody in a few years or whatever like that. This is something that's really, really nice about Völuspá, and my connection with that is when I'm reading it, I understand the consciousness and how she's weaving. There's actually different ways you can put this in a row, but this is very fitting to the journey that we take. So somebody might read it the first time and be like, no, I'm understanding something about the gods. And then they kind of read it again, like, whoa, okay. And it's got layers and layers and layers. So when people come to me, they're not going to come for me for like a tarot reading would be or something. This is going to be much, much deeper.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm trying to separate is between that kind of like tarot reading or once you're a fortune teller, somebody like that, and get an understanding of the difference. Or at least
I work specifically in trance. That is what I have honed and trained myself to do. And so I'm doing that specific oracle trance with the singing group. And so it does happen that people are in touch with me. It would usually be just through people, and then they will call me and say, like, I know you through these avenues, and I'm dealing with things like serious things like dying, birth, children, very, very serious things. Maybe sometimes I do get a lot of situations like people are feeling they're cursed or something like that, something that you really like. If you're going to call on the spirit world to come through me, through trance, and they really do animate through me. It's not like talking to me like this right now. You will see a big personality change. You will see different kind of, there's another presence in the space. If you're going to call them, then there's got to be something really big. So that is what I do. I have done work for, like in hospitals and stuff like that. But I don't go in trance there. I just I prepare myself and bring the powers with me, and I go into the hospitals. I'm trained in healing, in soothing, in different kinds of prayers. I'm a ceremonialist, so I'll do ceremonies for people. So different things that I inquire with time and with instruction. But I'm known specifically for holding the oracle trance, which would be something similar derived from Eric Saga, that I sit with my staff and I have a singing troupe. I go into trance and they animate through.
So what is it that you would be looking for, I guess, is what I was meaning before. I mean, when you go, like I can use myself as an example, like say if I came to you and you went into your trance, is it a case that you would be looking for my future or the past, or what knowledge would I be getting from it? Like what would I, or at least what would I be looking to gain from it? And does that make sense?
Yes, you will get what you need. And
Okay.
the entities that work through me will give you what you need, not always what you think you need.
So would that be, sorry, would that be a case of me asking you a specific question? So maybe, I mean, I guess it's a tough topic to talk about. Let's say I had a diagnosis of cancer or something, and I came to you. Would I then ask you if it was going to be okay, or whether, is that the kind of thing we're talking about? And then you would, in the trance, then be able to see, or at least try and understand as to what was going to happen in the future.
Scenarios like this will happen. And the thing is that I'm not present anymore when the trance happens. I'm in another place. And the spirits will come through and do what they need to do for you. And they usually know better than our human mind does. So, but there's complicated questions that do come up, like, am I going to die of this cancer? Am I going to lose this partner or something like that? And the powers do have a way of talking through it the right way, because there is always these situations of what do you need to know. I know things that I'm not going to speak of, it's because it's not serving any purpose. You can't steal away somebody's maturity, their journey, what they need to experience before reaching from point A to point B. But so what you will receive is a connection with powers that you feel like, okay, this is big. This is something outside of my human. So you feel kind of like, okay, this is important. I need to hear this. And you will get the right guidance to help you through the experience that you're having. If you are meant to get like direct answers, that will happen. What needs to happen will happen.
Okay.
And so, like a lot of people will be like, I really want to hold on to this partner in life. Everything in them feels like they will die if they don't get to hold on to this partner. So even though the oracle working through me will know that this is not going to end up well, they will find a way to support you, to, let me say, in the best circumstance, to buffer the experience and help you gain wisdom from what you're experiencing.
Okay.
And so it's supportive. Just like with Völuspá, the world is going to end anyways. but she's telling a story that's going to repeat itself over and over again. It's going to repeat within you. It's going to repeat in society. It's going to repeat in nature. It's going to repeat in the universe. So we keep on actually repeating ourselves as long as you need to hear it. It's all going to be all right. You're having an experience.
So, I mean, I don't know how much you can speak about when you're in the trance, because that fascinates me. And I don't know how conscious you are or not. I guess, are you conscious? Are you seeing things, even though you, like you said, somebody, I guess somebody else takes control. Is Tanya still there watching and kind of knows what's happening, or is it do you kind of take a backseat and then you come out of it and you don't really know what's happened, or are you still there consciously kind of watching what's going on, but something else has take control?
That's very interesting. Is that well, number one, this incorporation of spirit is nothing to take lightly. It is something that takes a lifetime of training. It's very important that you do that and with other people. And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous to do this job. So, and I have to take breaks, and I have to take moments of figuring this out again. And sometimes when I'm getting new spirits we negotiate, that we're working with, it takes time. It could take years to get this through. It depends sometimes what spirit is working through me, how conscious I'm going to be. When who I call the big one comes through, she's the most massive entity that works through me. And explaining that's another show for itself. It's something that's way over a lot of people's heads. It breaks a lot of concrete ideas of what we actually do when we speak of who the big one is. But I have other ones through that. The thing is I can, if I just try to describe this more clear, it's kind of like when you're waking up after a dream. Like the first moments, you're kind of like, whoa, and then it starts fading out during the day. So with some meetings, they are voice recorded, and then sometimes I have somebody writing things. But we usually don't use voice recording or any kind of recording at all, because it's spirits coming through, and that's not to be imprinted. But there are some people that we have negotiated with to do a little bit of documenting with pictures and stuff, but it won't work unless it's negotiated, because it do shut off in certain periods. Like if we're helping somebody cross over, like sometimes the spirit will come through and just needs help crossing over, all equipment will shut down on its own. So when, as a Völva in Iceland, I'm kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I do a lot of things, and sometimes I don't even know what I can do until I'm asked to do it. I just get a request, and then I kind of like tune in. I've never done this before. Am I doing this? Okay, how do I do it? And I just listen, and then I do it. And it sometimes becomes something that I get really good at, or it was just this moment. But I've been like 20 years doing it the way I'm doing it right now. I'm about 40 right now. So, and doing the trance for 20, doing this specific trance for 20 years.
So are you seeing images when you're in trance, almost like I'm trying to just kind of, I guess, understand what it might look like and get a picture in my own mind. So would you be seeing almost like a video film of what was going to happen, and then you would translate and choose what to say and what not to say, what to let them know?
I'm not there to say it. I'm not there to talk. I'm not allowed into the speaking. It's the spirits that are speaking.
It's all coming from
all spirit. All from the spirit. And this is the thing, is that I think, it was about 2016. The same time I kind of like found the internet. I'm sharing. I'm when some traditions come in Iceland from other traditions, and they're doing things here, I'm often called into to be in those things as the Völva in Iceland. So I'm, like if a curator from Mexico is coming in here, we get kind of introduced to each other, share information about the spirits and such thing, So it is quite often this wonderful way. In 2016, I was sitting in ceremony from a tribe from Mexico, and they the head of that ceremony, an elder there, said, you guys need to take her with to the next trip to, because they're traveling with her medicine, take her with to the mainland, to Europe. And I'm like, okay. My mom totally supports this whole like, oh, you just go for it kind of a thing. She goes with me. We go to France and to other gatherings where other traditions are showing up. And a lot, and there, what I do looks, there was Mongolian traditions there was voodoo traditions there's from China, there was all over the South American, native, everything all over the place. And what I do I gathered with the Siberians and the Mongolians really easily. We were like very attracted. And so they see what I do here quite similar to what they're still doing there, and our ancestors are still talking. They feel common ancestors. What the difference between me and a lot of traditions is the full incorporation, and being able to hold that space very safely because of the dangers of it. And there's not a lot of traditions that work with full incorporation like this. And my human mind and opinion is, I'm not reading anything. I'm kept in this beautiful, beautiful zone, like I'm in a comfort zone. In the beginning, I can see kind of like I'm writing a sound, I'm writing a wave. I have my path that I've kind of like developed with myself. Sometimes it changes a bit, but I know where I'm going and I know where I'm heading. And then when there's a breach, and there's been witnesses of this breach, they see that I open like this, and I'm kept in a beautiful space. Well, I'm this sounds really weird. I'm saying beautiful space. It just feels nice while this is working through, but I do feel sensations. When I'm coming out of it, I might have some memories and sensations, but it will diddle out. And I have buffer guides too, like from the high one to the big one. I'll have guides that are near my lifetime that will come through before coming into my body. This has an effect on all my molecules. Nobody's allowed to touch me for an hour before, hour after at least. I'm like an atom, and it's shivering, it's shaking, and a lot can come through in that. And I'm just kept in a space between.
Okay.
But I do have a sense of knowing. There's a sense of knowing in my head. Like when I need to know, I know. But like I said, I've been doing prophecies since I was born. I've been like, just as soon as I started talking, I would just know stuff. And then working with ceremony and training in ceremony most of my life. Can you imagine all the information that I would have in my head if I would remember everything? I'm so glad I don't. I really don't want to know everybody's shit, you know?
No. Absolutely not.
I know what I need to know.
So does it ever turn negative? I guess is the question that comes to my mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And are you able to take control if that happens?
Yeah.
And what would a negative experience be like? I'm guessing it would be more telling on your body, but what would that be then like for, I don't want to say the end user, but the person who's there, who you're doing this trance for? What would that be like for them? Is it just a case of the reading would be negative, or can it be a bit more malicious than that? In a sense, I don't want to use the word demonic because I guess that's more Christian, but that kind of scenario where it's an evil spirit.
Yeah. So this is where my guardians come in my singing troupe. So we still sing the Varlokur today. The thing is, so when I was little, I was spending my summers with my great grandmothers that was 90 years old when I was little, that learned from her grandmothers, you know. And it passed down. So there were songs that had lyrics, but mostly we are using sound. It's more of a chanting sound in it, but it's very specific, and the group that gathers around it have alignment in it, and it's very important that it's harmonious. Otherwise, new people cannot just jump into that particular circle. because they could bring in a cricket seiður, a seidvilla that could mess with the spirit world and me and what I'm going through in that point. So my mother, my aunt, my daughter, and the group around me are holding and guarding and tracking and making sure that things do not happen like that. That could be malicious or bad or anything like that. Of course, I'm not getting away with developing like this without a lot of mistakes and reading things wrong. I'm only human after all. So I have been in situations where I was too exposed, too big of a seder, too big of a ceremony. People are there that shouldn't have been in there, throwing at me some hand signals because they got scared, because shit got real. This is not a joke. This is the thing, is that when people really actually come and see this, this puts them in their place a bit, and they start, and that could cause a lot of disturbance in the field. So I have my protectors to just kind of like walk these people out of the area and things like that. There has happened that somebody's come in that either has a narcissistic issue. This is not in Iceland. This is elsewhere that I'm not traveling much anymore, but this is when I was trying it out. They come in with malicious attitudes and stuff like that. And it's not fun running into the spirits that work with me. People have instantly thrown up, become sick, shit their pants, get out of that space right away. So that can happen. If I am not aligned and I'm not doing good, if there's any human situation in me that is just getting in the way of the work and I'm not listening to take a break and I do ceremony, it will be bad for me. I can get sick for some time. It takes me a long time to recuperate. Big ceremonies take me a few days to rest after, especially if we're dealing with helping people with illnesses and just bad energy in them in general. I do some of the ceremonies. The thing is, this is, of course, they didn't write about us. We're terrible women. We're loud. The ceremony is not silent, it's loud. When the spirits come through, they come in wailing. They breach through sound, and they can come in some come in violent. And my mother, she's there, she's just holding, make sure I don't fall down, don't fall into a fire. I'm being guarded like this. So, some of the spirits that just got, this is nothing to do with good and evil. This is just a nature the way it is. And it's just, there needs to be protocol and etiquette. When around this, before anybody comes to me, I describe all these things. I give warnings. I if they're really asking for this, because I could do a lot of other things, but when they're asking specifically for this trance, and it's, first of all, I gotta get permission from the spirits. Are we gonna do this? It starts working it out. Sometimes somebody needs to experience these big personalities, but it's quite often that we can never decide in our heads what they're gonna do, because there's been I've seen big people come in like, oh, okay, I'm with their egos and stuff, and I think like, oh man, this could turn bad.
Straight at me there.
No, I'm looking in the distance actually right now. I'm looking at myself talking right now. So no, but and then they're quite soft. So we can never have. That does sound like me actually. Yeah, so it's my opinion and views and stuff like that are just not involved in this stuff.
Okay. Mathias, I feel like I'm just hijacking, but I'm just so interested in asking.
No, go for it. You have the interesting questions you're asking. Like, I mean, personally, there's a lot of this stuff that resonates with me, and I've like recognized a lot of what you're saying, Tanya. So, like, I think I have more of like an implicit understanding, so I wouldn't be asking these very concrete questions myself.
I mean, I guess my position. I would say I'm not spiritual, and I wouldn't say concretely I'm not spiritual. I've certainly been in situations where things have happened that I can't understand, but I would say I'm on the fence when it comes to whether I believe concretely in spirit or not. That's just, I think, but that is down to my personal experience, where I'm very, I would say I'm very much like a pig-headed Yorkshireman of that. I believe what I see, and until I have that experience, then I'm kind of like, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm one way or the other. I'm not like absolutely not, and I'm not like definitely, because I just haven't experienced it myself. So I try to stay as neutral as possible. It's something that I would love to experience and to see, because I think then I can have a better opinion on it, I guess, rather than, because it's hard to form an opinion. Some people will feel like I'm rambling here, but some people will go, they will say, without a doubt, some people may listen to this episode, and please don't take this offensively, Tanya. Some people will just go, okay, that's probably bollocks, and some people will just form that opinion, but they will form that opinion without ever have actually having any experience. It will just be, that's the way that they think. They just think, okay, that's not real. Whereas I try to at least stay a little bit in the middle until I know one way or the other.
I want to add something to
that.
that.
That is cute. So it's fine. The thing is that I don't care about other people's opinions. I don't mind being the judged one, the misunderstood one. I don't care. I come from a punk upbringing. I'm used to being different. Like, really. And the thing is that I don't need anybody to believe in me or what I do or anything. I don't need that. The thing is that I'm very content with my life.
Mhm.
I have a comfortable living. I can do this solely as my work and way of being, and what comes to me is what's meant to be, and I'm very aligned with that. If somebody needs to see this, to experience it or whatever, and you really need it, that will happen. But I don't know what you need. Do you need to be more spiritual? I don't know. And I'm quite of a skeptic myself. I'm not like, oh, you got to have a good filter. I'm a skeptic towards everything, even when it comes to the spirit world. I'm not just, I might see something and I just don't judge it from the first glance. I get to know it a little bit more and more and more and more. And what we're doing is a science, really. I just do not have the English terminology. I don't get the academic brain to deliver it the way that people will feel most comfortable with, but we are working with science. I think quantum physics helped a lot bridge our terms and what we're going through. I think dreams help a lot to explain the different kinds of experiences of reality that we have. A dream is an experience is real. The trance is an experience, and that is real. And I this is why I don't need any, like, you don't have to introduce me as anything. People just get to know me, and you just feel it within yourself. Am I resonating or not? If somebody's gonna call it bullshit, fine. You're not. I am gonna be over your head. I'm going to be over your head. So if you're not ready for it, that's fine. I don't care. Another lifetime.
I love this, like, fuck off haters.
That's the way it should be. But I obviously, you're obviously a smart woman, so you know that there will be those people who have that opinion.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's not even like, I don't even feel like a little sprinkle of offended. not a tiny bit. Because it's like, there's a lot of things I don't understand. There's a lot of things that I will look at and be like, I don't get it. I don't know why you do that. But it's at the same time a curiosity if I'm spending my time judging it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so there's one thing to say about this too. Like, we in modern times, thanks to the so-called Enlightenment age and all of these things, we're nowadays we have a discourse. When we talk about these kinds of things, it's always about whether or not you believe, right? But that doesn't have to be necessarily the way that you exist in this world. You can also exist in this world with simply the possibility that there are, that's kind of what you're doing already, Dan. Like, that with the possibility that could be something, right? Like, you don't have to make the choice, really.
I'm very comfortable of just saying I don't know, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily, and able to do that. Whereas I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I keep moving, and if it happens for me and I have the experience, I have the experience. But I will say that I do think it's very ignorant for anybody to ever think that we have discovered everything. The science has discovered the way of measuring everything, and then what we know now is concrete, and it's not going to get any better. And that maybe in 10, 15, 20 years, there's going to be something that comes about where you can measure spirits or see spirits or communicate in a better way than maybe someone in the dark with a voice recorder. But you know, these things are always advancing, and what we could measure 100 years ago, 200 years is nowhere near what we can measure now. So in another 100 years, who knows what we can see and where technology will go. So anybody who says absolutely not, it's all bullshit, I think, well, you don't know. Like, the reality is we don't know.
Does it matter? Does it really matter that we understand right now? Because I think that we should just be humble to the calculations of the universe and stay in this presence of not knowing and letting us evolve and develop. I like to have more things in common with a flower. You know, it's going to grow in its own time. It's going to do its thing. It's going to have its season. It's going to go down in the earth. It's going to gain new nutrition, grow different the next year. You know, I don't know what all the stress is about to have this ultimate knowing concrete thing. I guess it's something about security. I guess it's
so, yes.
Yeah. That is fine.
It makes people
That's
feel
fine.
comfort if they know they know the answer, and
or feel that they know, if nothing else. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
feel like they know, which is a really good thing, because I mean, we're floating on planet Earth in the universe. We really don't know. We don't know. This is really weird. Life is weird, you know.
It is.
There's certainly a lot of things we don't know, and I mean, I could probably attest for the idea of thinking that you know things brings comfort, because this might be a little bit embarrassing, but when I was maybe 12, 13 years old, I was terrified of ghosts. I'd never seen a ghost, never known anything, nothing, but I was terrified of it. I was terrified of the idea of seeing one, of them being there, and it scared me for no real reason in my mind. It was just something that maybe I'd seen a movie or something, but this fear was very much real. And then I think I consciously created arguments in my mind as to why they couldn't be real, scientific arguments of why it's not real, why they're not there. So to get rid of this what I would maybe see as like an irrational fear, to get rid of that, I would just convince myself that scientifically it was impossible for them to exist. So there we go, stop being an idiot. So I think maybe people do that, and they think they believe in something hard enough to get rid of a fear that they have, but they maybe just don't want to admit.
Well, you know, everybody, I mean, unless you're a total sociopath narcissist, you're going to have a lot of fear in your life, anxiety in your life. And we put up good masks, but everybody's got insecurity. And even I sometimes have moments I'm like over my head, you know, like I don't like ghosts in my house. You know, it does creep me out. But at the same time, I get totally possessed by spirits, you know. I mean, it is, but it's until I get to know it. You know, I had a spirit visit my house the other day, and it spooked me for a bit. I was kind of like, ooh, my daughter was like, oh my God, you're afraid of all people? And that's very humbling, you know. And just any way you got, you any way you need to believe and be to just have your moment in this lifetime as yourself, just do your thing for reals, you know, whatever it is. But we talk about measuring the spiritual, the intangible, but you know, how do you measure love? How do you measure rage? How do you the feelings? How do you measure that?
There are certainly things that that are unexplainable, whether it's you can like if somebody's angry, you can feel it, or if there's tension in a room, there is a feeling, there is something when if you walk in a room, you can just sense a feeling. And I don't know what it is. Maybe there's a scientific reason for it.
It's called energy. Energy.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people just dismiss that whole idea. And I say, and same with, you know, this is also weird, but Sarah's quite into like serial killer type stuff, like reading books, that kind of stuff. So we've been to a few little places and visited sort of areas where stuff might have happened. And there's undoubtedly you get a feeling from these places, whether it's psychologically because you know something's happened there, or there is, like you say, like an energy that exists in these areas where bad stuff has happened. But even aside from that, there's places you go that have just a feeling. It's just an eerie feeling, whether it's innate from something that we carry through for like the last 1,000 years, from whether it's danger or whatever. Everybody listening to this must have had that feeling where you go somewhere and it's just like, this feels a little bit off. Something doesn't quite feel right. And I can't explain where that comes from, but there must be something.
I can.
There must be something.
I can. Natural places, natural spaces in general, they feel perfectly fine. Human created spaces, to me, they feel freaky sometimes.
Like, well, a basement, a cellar.
For me, like,
I feel like a basement or a cellar is always a quite. Because when I used to do plumbing, I used to have to go into basement cellars, and
you're always freaked out.
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily freaked out, but there's always like just a feeling. But then I don't know if maybe it's because humans aren't meant to be underground and there's not much natural light there, if any. So maybe it's to do with that. But there are certainly spaces.
My job is to be able to look through these pages of what is primordial, like fear of closed spaces or the unknowing, these kind of fears that could create kind of like embodiment in people. They don't even know what it is anymore. It could be what's happened in some areas, and be able to read the pages of that. And what is psychological also, and what is from the powers, what is from the soul, what is from the spirit. I'm looking at all of these pages, and I'm not going to be, I do not push any, me personally, I do not push any ideas to anybody, and people do not come to me unless they actually want to, you know. People are going to travel to a village in Iceland to be able to be in this area. So and it's never done as a show to prove anything, to validate anything for anybody in that sense. That's not important. And I absolutely think it's quite natural for like you had a situation, like you had a fear of that unknowing energy that could be ghost, and you chose to just go neutral, use logical brain, practical brain, explain it in different ways or something. Other people will go closer to believing in something good, in life. It just it's very rare. I don't even know this. I don't know this type of person that gets away with not having a difficult experience in life. That we all just go through trauma. Life is, just the world is traumatic. There's war everywhere. What we see in the news, that we try to just disassociate from, desensitize from, but that is traumatic too. That's disassociation. When we start thinking it's normal watching a war across the world, the destructive power that nature has and that can live in people and the issues that we have is very real. So we just know that has an energy, that's a density, it holds you down, it stiffens you up and stuff like that. And we do have an energy that can counteract that if you work with that, whether you believe in your own power and might, or you grow a relationship to something else, whether it's a divine power or just your connection with your ancestors, humanity, nature, whatever it is. But I just think that people just need the support to be able to get through life well. I think people deserve wellness in their life, and people that are having raised with more harmony, create a better world. And when I say harmony, I am not in the love and light crew. I'm talking about really what I cannot stand spiritual gaslighting. I am heartbroken by how people treat each other. I'm angry sometimes. I can't get insulted. I can have all of these feelings, I'm just bringing compassion to that I'm allowed to feel this way. Well, I'm allowed to not, yeah.
Well, Tanya, will you just explain to me, like, what is the love and light crew exactly, for anybody who might not know what that is?
do you know what? I'm trying to figure out myself. Well, it just comes up with this New Age spiritualism, which I think is it's quite beautiful that people just realize, well, I probably energy came to the planet, into the human system. We started influencing each other and feeling like, oh yeah, maybe it's a good idea to get closer to nature. You know, maybe this crystal can help. You know, like they started to pick up on things. You know, this is like in the beginning phase. I guess we're toddlers in this phase right now. People are just grabbing into all kinds of spiritualism and consuming it also quite a bit. Let's get crystals, let's get sage, let's do this, let's do that, and it'll make me raise my vibrations, be happier, something like that. It's a new age thing. And I guess I started to maybe see this seep into the system in like beginning of the century, you know, the 1900s, even with the spiritualist movement. People are starting to work with angels and divination and you know. Okay, I'm trying to explain something that's quite outside myself, because I've just been experiencing it coming at me. And like in the past few years that I hear this repeating thing like love and light, and people are maybe arguing, and then they go, okay, you do you, love and light, you know. And you know, something like that. And I'm like, really? I mean, can we, okay, for one thing, with this crystal situation, consuming that, people are just digging up Mother Earth everywhere, taking it from its natural habitat, moving it around. And I'm an animist, okay, if I haven't noticed. You know, cutting down trees in Brazil to have your Palo Santos across the world, you know, such things like that. It's a consumption of spirituality, maybe.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, that's why it's.
Yeah. I'm trying to explain something for the first time. I'm just saying, like, is that what it is? But I'm much more for just going like, okay, I'm here in Iceland, and I'm raised with the medicine of this land, that the trees that grow that coincide with the land that is holding me alive here. There's many reasons why I kind of like want to pull out of the New Age thing and just more into animism and becoming more in tune with the space that's upholding you, whether you travel around or not. You're just your tree, and you touch base wherever you are in the world. New Age stuff is also blending into the Seder stuff and Galdur and things like that, and it doesn't mix well because of our acknowledgement of the whole emotional scale that we can have and we're okay with.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. There's something to be said for you know, building local practices based off of where you exist and what is present there, instead of necessarily like, I really like that, you know, mental image of the idea of like digging up Mother Earth to supply people with crystals all over the fucking place. That is rather stupid, if you ask me. Like, from an animistic perspective, I mean, personally also an animist myself, so that makes a lot of sense.
That's one thing I'm most passionate about, and I care most about, that the earth is alive. And that's I get as protective of that as I'm like as a human or family member or such things. I feel it a lot in my body. I get upset when people come to Iceland and pick rocks from our mountains, and because maybe some of these mountains have an entity, have a spirit to it, and they're just tearing it apart. And that I'll get off my feelings will get hurt about it, you know. And that's kind of like what kind of like also pushed me to speak and be present, wear my clothes out front, letting people know we care. This matters. I can help with these voices of nature, transmit it to you, and you understand. I am working, like now I cannot stop the flood of tourism that's come to Iceland, but I'm adjusting and trying to work with it. With, for instance, I'm working on having our own museum or center here in my coast. Introduced to the traditions here in my area, to our sorcery and also our medicine, you know, working with the plants and herbs and the powers here. And if people come here before they go out there and meet the next waterfall or mountain, I could possibly save or help the spirits here that are like family to me. But
So
there is, yeah.
I have one last question, and might be a little bit of a difficult one, and please don't take any offense by it. But you've mentioned illnesses a couple of times, and I just wondered how that worked. And in a sense, like, would you ever recommend somebody maybe stopped like traditional medical help in form for something that came through when you were in a trance? And I guess that's kind of something I've been toying with for the last maybe half an hour since you mentioned the being able to help with illnesses, because I'm all for sort of traditional medicine, but I am a little bit, I would say, against when people would suggest maybe stop taking traditional, like medically given drugs, I guess maybe drugs or help in form for something else without that doesn't have any back into it. Does that make sense? Like, please don't take that offensively.
No,
I just
not
wondered
at all.
how that worked.
Well, this is not a difficult question at all. I absolutely support modern medicine.
Okay.
And getting absolutely. We work together.
That's what I wanted to hear, because you do that makes this question a lot easier, because sometimes you do see not with vulvas, but certainly with other types of situation like this, where they might recommend people stop taking modern medicine in form of traditional ones, and that's not necessarily the right answer. So I am really glad that that's your position.
I'm really real. Okay, so I'm serious about this. I'm a very down to earth kind of a person. It's perfectly natural that human beings, that they started with herbs and stuff like that, and they start developing medicine and start developing technology and to help each other in the medical field. That is just a wonderful, beautiful process. Here in Iceland, we do have some doctors that will not acknowledge our healing methods and the work we do. There are some, but I can tell you majority do. And we do work together. And so the thing is like my uncle, who had cancer, he came to us for healing every week, but it wasn't healing so he would not die. It was healing to help him cope with the process. It was going through the chemo, going through the emotional, the psychological things that happened before you go. We would never interfere with the natural cycle, and we do not see the end of it when somebody passes away. We believe in reincarnation. And there's a lot of people with mental illnesses that attract towards spiritual things. I'm very clear. I'm so strict about these things, filtering that and helping, and just saying, hey, you're having a situation, and are you talking to a therapist? I mean, if anything, I'll be like the person that will direct towards that direction. But I can be like a support, but I am not I'm not a source to drink from and for endlessly. I'm just a point on your way in your journey. And so, like I said, I don't understand people that will just say drop medical things. I don't understand that. Of course, I would support people having independent thought, being in alignment with themselves. There's going to be, get a second opinion from a doctor, get a third and fourth. Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that. Okay, this is my last question, and this might be completely childish, and 12-year-old Daniel is going to chuckle inside, but is there any link between a vulva and vulva? Like, because you said this is a very feminine based thing. Now, is there any correlation there? And everybody might think it's a ridiculous question, but I don't.
Okay.
Are those two words linked in any way? Because it seems,
I love this.
It seems quite odd that it is a very female oriented.
What a coincidence. What a coincidence.
That's what I thought. Mathias
what
is
a
looking at me
question.
like I'm an idiot.
Okay, so etymology is like a word I just learned the other day. So they're gonna have their way of going like, yes, völur, staff, things like that, right? Okay. Which you know what, like when you get to know, if you get to know the ceremony, what we do, this actually makes a lot of sense that we have a staff and that we should be called the Völva. There is a polarity in it that creates something different.
Yeah.
Like a life of its own. But Völva is not in my language, like the as a vagina.
Okay.
We call it a different thing. So my brain never made that connection before until I realized that the English words,
Okay.
or Latin word, whatever. And so I think that most academics and people thinking about etymology will not make this connection. But I can tell you that people that have been witness of me, when the ones that see the breach, they do see an opening, and it is a symbol that I carry. And it wasn't like it's not like a lot of things I do not think it and then do it. It kind of comes to me. I usually work with the staff to write a sound, but I was gifted a drum later in life, and it is a völva. It's shaped like a völva. And the one that was making it did in a ceremony was like, what? We're actually making a völva drum, the drum. And I can send you pictures of it. It is a cave. It's beautiful. And I'm definitely working with that energy. Now, there's another interesting thing. I'm gender fluid, and so when I'm in a ceremony, I am definitely holding the völva. I am poof. I understand some people, some men, that will get a little red in the cheeks, when they come
me
into
right
ceremony
now.
with me. Yes.
I feel like I've just gone bright red.
Yeah. Now I carry this full on Sheila the gig style, and I hold my staff and I hold it tight. And it's a big one too.
There we go. We have to get a dig joke.
I have to Dan, I have to blow your mind here. Okay, so the word vulva, right, has its origin in the Proto-Indo-European root wel, which means to turn or revolve, with derivatives referring to curved and enclosing objects. So basically, it forms all or a part of different words like circumvolve, convoluted, convolution, devolve, evolution, vault, valve, revolve, and so on, right? Voluminous as well. Waltz, well, welter, welk, willow, la 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 la. It is the hypothetical source of or evidence for its existence is provided by Sanskrit, valate, turns around, ulvam, womb, vulva, Lithuanian valtis, twine, net, Vilnius, wave, apvalus, round, Old Church Slavonic, valiti, roll or welter, viljuna, wave, Greek, elwain, to roll round, wind, and wrap, and so on. An eye line as well, twist, turn, squeeze, revolve, rotate, and so on, and so on, and so on, going down to Old High German. We have, Gothic, Valsian, which means to roll, Old English, Welvian, roll, Wheelock, whelk, spiral-shelled mollusk, and also Old High German Walzan, to roll or waltz, and so on and so forth. And to this root, we also find the old Germanic, where was it? Walus, right? Which also comes from that root, to turn, wind or roll, which produces völur in Old Norse, which is staff. So there you go. It is actually related. I love that giggle right there.
I knew it. I knew it all along.
Yeah, right. Like I've never heard the rundown like this, because people just go like, no, völur, dunk, and I'm like, wait, this doesn't feel right, because the actuality of the work. It's like everything you just said, Mathias, everything. It all comes into that space, you know.
Yeah.
I think almost
There you go.
everything.
Yeah.
But
No.
so-
Originally, like, all the way back to in Proto-Indo-European. Of course, I mean it's a theoretical language, but all the
Yeah.
way back, it seems like it has the same origin.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Well,
I didn't doubt
the
it.
work, yeah, the work does the thing, and I'm not saying that just, hey, everybody come see the whole Völva show here in Iceland, but people that are meant to be here, come and see it. You know, I'm very interested in having people that are academic to come and see and be witness, just to be witness. Actually, that's it. Just to write about it. It exists today, and this is how it looks like. You know, it's just a landmark, and I think it's coming time to do that. The thing is that like with Þorbjörg, you know, what she was wearing and stuff like that. I have my own things, you know, what I would wear, and it will describe a lot of what kind of Völva I am today. And the thing is, a lot of people are reading these things and are going like, well, I don't know, and just guessing and stuff. I'm like, I'll show you. And I'm showing you right now, just talking to me, you know, I'm showing you. I am not a new age chick, and I'm not self-advertising or anything. I'm just trying to anchor this energy down here in a wholesome way. And also have fun. It's been really fun talking to you guys.
Oh,
That's
yes.
fun too.
It's been really fun. Before we wrap up, Tanya, I think we've met in person. I think when you had your hands tattooed, I was at Haber's tattoo studio. I think when you were getting your hands done, me and Sarah,
you came in.
I'm sure.
That's right. No, you did. I was at her place. I remember. I guess I recognized you.
I knew at the start of before we started the show, I recognized your hand tattoo, and I was like, I know I've seen that before. And this whole time I've been thinking, and I'm like, it definitely is.
That was the moment. That was the moment. I remember now.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely drop by next time I'm in Iceland. We'll go conjure some trek from the mountains.
I want to do this. I want to experience it, and then I can know for sure.
Yeah.
or just be more confused than ever.
Well,
you know,
even better.
I don't know if I can get
even
more
better. No, you're very welcome, because I see that when things are threaded together, we'll see what happens. And Mathias, we can maybe talk to Katla. You know, it's just something like that. Whatever flows.
Awesome.
I like the
just
sound
like how I'm here right now. Wow.
That's
been cool.
Tanya, have you got anything you want to shout out? Your Instagram page or Facebook page where people can follow you?
No.
There's so many people say that.
No, it's like, well, you can if you want to go. Well, not my Facebook. That's an. I'm trying. I don't know how I feel about Facebook anymore, but Instagram.
That's like me.
Yeah, I just don't know what I'm doing there, how I'm navigating that. I'm just kind of like one day at a time kind of thing. But I like the picture diary. And the thing is that, hold on, I'll just write it here. I call myself Tiva Rains. The gods are raining. You know what I mean? Tiva, I can't write it because my thing's on lock on Icelandic.
Okay.
Maybe we're gonna do it like this. I'm just testing. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Tiva Rains in Icelandic.
Okay, so that's TIVAREIGN. So
yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's like I found
People
Instagram. I'm like, I'm like, I don't even know why I have that, but it was a period of time when I'm thinking about Tivur, the gods. And in Iceland, we describe the energy field around nature as Tivur. You know, when you can see the light and the glow around it. And what I'm meaning about it is nature is reigning, is that nature is always first and is the highest, you know, here. So there I'm just, doodling around, Being
Perfect.
the wild card self I am. So
There we go. Matthias, what about you? Other than everybody send Matthias a Facebook friend request.
Yeah. You can always find me on Instagram. If you must find me on Facebook, I guess.
I
Always,
guess. Yeah.
always join us on the Nordic Mythology podcast group on Facebook. We just had a wonderful row today over the word Norse. I spammed the group with like 7 different pictures, I think it was, or memes about Norse. And people like fucking with me about it, so that's great.
That's it. There's some good memes in there, to be fair. There is some good memes.
I gotta catch up because I'm still working with the language. I sometimes just copy what people say in English, trying to explain things like what's Nordic,
Right.
Norse, whatever. We say Nordic. I don't know. So, hey,
well, that is the translation of Norse. That's original.
We don't have another 2 hours for Matthias to go down this path.
For me to rant about that.
I'm a hungry boy.
Okay, so I gotta give one little shout out. Because I'm doing a very interesting talk about outsitting, Utis Edda, 10th of July for the organization Heathen Women United. If anybody recognizes that, if you run into that, I think that will be really fun. I'm looking forward to having that talk about outsitting.
Cool.
So that's going to be another one of those.
We'll make sure to have show notes that mention Heathen Women United. I believe there's a Facebook group for that, right?
Yeah. So that is one of the different channels I run into on Facebook, and I like that one. Cool. I like that group and what it's about, and they have these conferences, and it's just been, they got me used to talking on computer, you know. So I always come back to that. If they want to talk about Utis Edda, I'm so for that, and I'm all there for that. So cool. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. If you enjoy the show, please take a minute to leave us a 5-star rating, a positive review. It will literally take you 30 seconds, and it really does help people find the show. And obviously, they read the reviews and hopefully want to check it out. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Nordic Mythology Podcast. The website, nordicmythologypodcast.com. Same on YouTube. Like I said, we're going to start putting some full episodes going there after 30 days. And we're going to start putting some little short clips on there as well. And then if you really enjoy the show, please help us out on Patreon. You can support us at any tier on there. You get access to the live show and also our watch along show that we do directly after the main show on a Tuesday. And it really helps us out. Helps us get new equipment, nice new green screen, maybe for myself, so I can have cool pictures up like Matthias.
Black metal bands in Norwegian woods.
That's it, exactly. Awesome, that's the show. Tanya, thank you very much. This has been a really interesting conversation. Like I say, I love these ones where I know very little about it, and especially when it's something that's out of my comfort zone. Maybe I just love sitting and listening and then asking all the dumb questions.
They were good questions. They
bring
a lot to light. They bring a lot to light. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much for joining us.